really excited that Secretary Deb Haaland is here and Brian Newland to hear testimony from our boarding school survivors and the family members of them. It's important that this history comes out and the truth is told so that our people can start to heal.
Gwatsi Halpa Duhiname Itzatuitza Shuimi Hanu. My name is Deb Haaland. My Indian name is Crushed Turquoise. And I just want to say that you all are very lucky to have your language. It was something that my mother was afraid to teach me. And so the extent of my Karis fluency is not very much, but I know that the ancestors hear even if you try.
The songs that you heard, the prayer that was said, was about our way of life. Everything that the boarding school was intended to wipe out is still alive today because of our ancestors and our elders that continue to bring these traditions forward.
My ancestors and many of yours endured the horrors of Indian boarding school assimilation policies carried out by the same department that I now lead. I launched the Federal Indian Boarding School Initiative in 2021 to undertake a comprehensive effort to recognize the legacy of boarding school policies with the goal of addressing their intergenerational impacts and to shed light on the traumas of the past. In Washington state alone, there were 15 boarding schools, leaving intergenerational impacts that persist in the communities represented here today.
I believe it was about in the late 1860s, the Sisters of Providence petitioned the government to start a school. And so the government contracted with them. Only it wasn't truly a government school. They contracted with the Sisters of Providence, and that school was over there across the bay where Mission Cemetery is today. And that's where it started. And that's why, again, the cemetery started over there. Because as the children passed away, they were buried in and around the school grounds there. And that was the start of that cemetery.
Washington is the 6th stop on the road to healing, which is a year-long tour across the country to provide Indigenous survivors of the federal Indian boarding school system and their descendants an opportunity to make known their experiences. I want you all to know that I'm with you on this journey, and I will listen. I will grieve with you, I will weep, and I will feel your pain.
We know that this is a part of an era when the federal government funded these boarding schools to forcibly assimilate Indian kids and try to change them and change us away from being who we were and who we are. As of now, the department has determined that 15 of those federal Indian boarding schools were located here in the state of Washington, including the Tulalip Indian School right here. And as we continue investigating the federal Indian boarding school system, learning about your experiences at these schools in the overall system, it paints a history that our records, our federal records alone, can't tell the whole story. We need more. And so we need to hear from you.
I am the daughter of Lottie Sampson. She was a member of the Swinomish Upper Skagit tribe. Her and all of her siblings were removed from Bow Hill, Washington, and taken to boarding schools. The youngest was 5 years old, and the oldest was 15. The only two sisters here at Tulalip were forbidden to talk to each other. They weren't allowed to have time together. As you can tell, the family bond was broken. When she got here to Tulalip, she did talk of having to be marched everywhere. She talked about that bell that would ring. And I think it was in the 1980s, we were brought here to a ceremony to commemorate this bell. I found Mom sitting alone by herself, and I asked her what was she thinking. She said, "Thank God it's silenced. No more will that bell ever tell me where to go, where to be."
My mother and my father and my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents were all Lakota speakers. I'm assuming that I also was a Lakota speaker before I went to school. When I was in the school, I learned a lot of Latin, a lot of English, and a lot of Spanish. Not a word of Lakota. So I'm a little weak in that. So I want to kind of acknowledge that by saying, Midaki abi, ampetukile, michante ta woglake, naha nape chioza pelo. I come here today with a good heart to try to tell the story the best way I know how. At nighttime, in the dormitories, of course, the kids will be crying because they're lonesome for their parents. Sometimes the priest who shared a little room off the side there would get disturbed about that. He would come out with his belt, pick up a kid off the bed, and whack him for crying. Of course, when you're 6 years old and you see that, you get scared. You start holding things in.
I want to thank all my relatives behind me and the ones in front of me and left and right side of me for being here and sharing the love you have for each one of us, each one in here, because I love you just as much and much more because I prayed hard this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.